ॐ श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्. Viveka Chudamani is a Prakarana Grantha which is often called a Panchakosha Viveka Pradhana Prakarana, which means in this text, the 5 layers of human existence are very systematically and well analyzed. So we are seeing how Acharya, Adi Shankaracharya, explains how is this Karya Karana Sanghata, the body, mind, sense assembly, is very intelligently put together by the Trigunatmika Maya Shakti. So we have studied the nature of the components and the gunas, attributes, and also the purpose. So what is the purpose of this Karya Karana Sanghata? Is to serve the master, the jiva, who is indwelling. And for what purpose? To fulfill all the short-term, long-term goals and plans in the Jiva Yatra, like participating in the World Cup cricket finals. So many events are there planned. So without a vehicle, we cannot travel to those destinations. And what is the fuel for this Karyakarana Sanghata? Acharya explained it as the pranic activities. No, the prana that is derived from the collective sum total rajoguna of the Panchatanmatras is the driving force. So we saw the pranic activities as hunger and digestion, thirst, and then circulation, respiration, and also a special udana vayu, that is like the courier service. No? That at the end of the prarabdha karma, the udana vayu steps in to transport the jiva, sukshma shariram, to the next new destination and home. So Yama Deva has very beautifully captured all this in the chariot imagery that we studied in the Kathopanishad. And Yama explains to young Nachiketa, Atmanam Rathinam Vidhi Shariram Rathamevato Buddhi Sarathim Vidhi Manah Pragrahamevacha Indriyani Hayan Yahuhum. So Indriyani are the horses. They are connected to this chariot, which is the Deha, the body. And the Jiva is seated in the chariot, which is guided or driven by the Buddhi. The Buddhi is a charioteer, and the Buddhi governs the mind and the senses. So, if the Buddhi is sattvic and informed, then one can reach the destination effortlessly. So then we saw Acharya explaining the similar thing, analyzing the 3 bodies, and today we'll complete the nature of the subtle body. And we saw how the jiva has a unique name in every avastha. In the 3 avasthas, Jagrat, Sapna, Sushupti, what is the unique name of the jiva? Vishwaha, Taijasaha, Prajnaha. And what are also the special activities? Now, these 3 bodies or the Panchakoshas, collectively they are known as Upadhihi. So in Vedanta, we saw Upadhihi is a technical word, and we saw the example of the crystal. Upadhihi means anything that appears to limit and confine the space-like limitless consciousness. Just like in the case of the crystal is colorless, it is transparent. But when a colored object like a red hibiscus flower or a blue cloth or a white anything is brought near, then the crystal appears colored, red, blue, or white. So too, this Jivaha who's seated in this Ratham, Sharira Ratham, is really Asangaha Purusha, unattached, uninvolved. But because there is a identification, there is a Tadatmyam in the Anatma bodies, and so the Jiva is the Ahankara, which becomes the Karta Bhokta, and the Karta Bhokta goes on to become Sukhi Dukhi Jiva. So that is the, so Acharya is analyzing the nature of the Upadhi. And what are the Upadhi dharmas? The Upadhi dharmas belong to the Upadhi alone. So we are doing the discriminative analysis that the Upadhi dharma is not to be confused with the Atma dharma. Atma is Sadanandaha, Nityanandaha, and there is no Dukkham in the Atma. Now, in the last session, we saw the nature of Ahankaraha. Who or what is the Ahankaraha? And there we saw it is the Aham iti Abhimani. The I notion is the Ahankaraha. Now, how did it arise? If it is asked, we saw that the mind, that is every subtle body, the mind borrows the sentience from Chaitanyam. And now it has the reflected sentience. So this is the Chidabhasaha, the RC, the individual localized consciousness. So now in that empowered, activated mind, there is the I notion. And the I notion will identify with Dehaha, Pranaha, Manas, Buddhihi, Indriyani, and even Shunyam. Recently we saw in the Dakshinamurti Stotram in Teni Ashram, Deham pranamapindriyanya pichalam buddhim cha shunyam viduhu. So those bhrantaha, those deluded jivas identify, the ahankara identifies with some form of anatma. Anatma placing the I notion. And hence there are all these various conclusions. I am tall, fat, short, dark, fair, sad, happy, anxious, and so on, confused, all these. Because now the Ahankara has identified with the Saugunyam and the Vaigunyam. We saw that. Saugunyam is proper functioning of the Karanas and Vaigunyam is defective. Something is defective in this assembly. It will be there all the time. Yeah. And joint problem and back problem and eye vision or digestion, respiration. So just like any machine, this Karyakarana Sanghata is also subject to wear and tear. So when the Ahankara identifies and then it is caught up in the dance of the gunas. So sattvic moments and it will be sattvic, sometimes rajasic, sometimes tamasic. That is the nature of this Ahankara. And the jiva gets a break from the Ahankara only in one state. And that is Sushupti Avastha. In the deep sleep state, yeah, which everybody looks forward to it. Then the I also retreats, is withdrawn in a capsule like Karana Shariram. So then there is no activity. Only the prana keeps the breathing going on and some tissue repair is happening but the factory is shut down and the jiva gets a break. But in the other two states, because there is a karta, there will be a bhokta, doer, enjoyer, that nature will keep the jiva busy in samsara. So the Acharya is saying here that happiness and sadness, recently we saw on Sunday what happened. There were so many ecstatic, happy jivatmas, Indian jivatmas. So the Indian Ahankara is identified with the country of one's birth. And so it is celebrating, whereas the South African Ahankara, they were all dukhi, right? So this is life. Kabhi khushi, kabhi gum. So alternating states is bound to come because of this ahankara. And ahankara is the I notion, and I notion will connect to idam vrittis. No? So I and this or that. Some event, some situation, person, object are all the idam vrittis, and together they will give rise to sukham and dukkham in the mind. But Acharya says all these states of the mind, states of the indriyas, senses, states of the body, skin tone, fatness, and thinness, height, weight, all these are the Sharira dharmas, properties belonging to the bodies, but not to Atma. Then what is Atma? Sadanandaha. So there is Atma is the Veta. Veta, we saw that word. Veta means knower, but not knowing some tangible object. Knower is the Sakshi. Sakshi Rupena Veta, Atmanaha. So this is what we saw in the last session. Now we come to the shloka number 106, sorry. Now here, Acharya is going to reveal a fact of life which may not be very well known to many people. And what is that fact of life? Acharya is going to say that whatever we do in life, whatever we love in life, a person or whatever we enjoy, a situation, and enjoy an object, that is not for the sake of that person, that object, that situation, but it is atmartham. It is for one's own sake. And how the atma alone is the priyatamaha, is the dearest one to one and all. So there is nothing dearer than atma. So let us chant this 106th shloka now. And we have seen this, some of us have seen it in the Panchadashi. It is a very famous shloka. Atma tatvena hi preyan, Atma tatvena hi preyan, Vishayo na swatah priyaha, Vishayo na swatah priyaha. स्वत एव हि सर्वेषां स्वत एव हि सर्वेषाम् आत्मा प्रियतमो यतः आत्मा प्रियतमो यतः तत आत्मा सदानन्दः तत आत्मा सदानन्दः नास्य दुःखं कदाचन नास्य दुःखं कदाचन. So this is a 3-line shloka, number 106. Atma atmarthatvena hi preyan. Vishayaha na swataha priyaha. Swataha eva hi sarvesham atma priyatamaha yataha. Tataha atma sadanandaha na asya dukkham kadachana. So, now Acharya raises this question, why do we love anything in the world? Yeah. So that word vishayaha, what does vishayaha mean? We've seen this. Vishayaha means a sense object. The deeper meaning is, vishaya means which binds one. So it has the power to bind the mind. That is also the deeper meaning of vishaya. But really, out in the world, there are Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. They're all Vishayaha. And by themselves, they are only harmlessly out there, right? So here, Acharya says in the first line, Vishayaha na swataha priyaha. Na swataha priya means the sense objects, they are not desirable by themselves. Yeah. Do they have the intrinsic quality of happiness in themselves? It's a very subtle point. Yeah. So they are not priyaha. There is no inherent happiness in the sense objects. Yeah. But still they are desirable. So atmarthatvena hi Prayan. Prayan or Priyan. Pathabheda se, both are correct. So, but the sense objects become desirable and dear to the jiva. Why? Atma tatvena. For one's own sake. That is, we are finding something desirable and projecting it on that object. Yeah, and then the mind says, I want this, I don't want that. Yeah, raga, dvesha, based vyavahara. And then for whom it is there, for whom it is desired, not for the sake of the sense object, but atmarthatvena, for the sake of oneself. Now here we can take the meaning of ahankaraha. The ahankaraha perceives some objects as desirable, some as non-desirable, and then chases the desirable ones, atma tatvena, and runs away from that which is not desired, again atma tatvena. So we do not want, things that we don't like, and we want things that we like. So that is the first line here. Now, this is very famous topic here, and we can automatically connect to the famous dialogue between Yajnavalkya and Maitreyi in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which I will tell you in a moment. Now, to see some examples here, what gives us anandam in life? There are a number of things we will say. I like swimming. I like Rasagulla. I like to watch this serial. Yeah. I like reading books. And I like to be in the company of friends. Now, or coffee ananda, tea ananda, so many different kinds of ananda. They can be very rajasic ananda also, drugs and tamasic, alcohol, smoking. So the objects are infinite that can give ananda in a variety of ways. So now the first line says, is there ananda in those objects? No, because if ananda was intrinsic to any of these objects, then everybody would want that ananda. That is not the case. Some people are intoxicated, they want drugs and alcohol, but sattvic people do not want. Some people like mangoes. Mangoes are not liked by all. Yeah. And also the same object, if I continue eating, rasagullas, 3 rasagullas, 4, 5, what is the limit? So at some point, it will be like a punishment. I don't want to hear the word rasagulla or gulab jamun or coffee. No. So at the moment, we enjoy 1 cup of coffee, some sweets, and some time we can spend with friends. But then I want to be with myself. That proves that na swataha priyaha vishayaha. So the objects by themselves do not have an intrinsic thing called happiness. So happiness is what we derive from the sense objects. So it is a projection of my mind. Atma tatvena. So we find in life also, we enjoy being with friends and with our children, with our parents, in our home, garden, many things. But where there's an opposition, there's a difference of opinion, then do they still give me happiness? Maybe not, no? So when I do not derive happiness from a person, from a situation, from an object, then I'm not going to pursue it or be around that object anymore. Yeah. So I want to go away from that object. So that is a subtle point related here, that there is no inherent happiness in sense objects, but we are deriving some pleasure, some peace, some happiness. What is we here? The ahankara, the I notion. Ahankara. Now look at the second line. Swataha eva hi sarvesham atma priyatamaha yataha. Now, because Atma is the dearest, Parama Prema Aspadaha. So here is where we can connect to the story of Yajnavalkya and Maitreyi. Most of you know the story, how the great sage, the wise sage Yajnavalkya wants to give up the grihastha ashrama and take up sannyasa and do Nididhyasanam. But before that, he wants to divide the property equally between the two wives, Katyayani and Maitreyi. Then Maitreyi, one of the two wives, approaches and says that with all the wealth you're leaving behind, will I get Amritatvam? Will I enjoy that for which you are giving up the Grihastha? And he says, no. Then there is a famous dialogue, and the mantra starts in 2.4.5 of the Maitreyi section of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, where Yajnavalkya says, Nava are patyuhu kamaya patihi priyaha bhavati. Nava are jayaye kamaya jaya priya bhavati. Nava are vittasya kamaya vittam priyam bhavati. Nava are putranam kamaya putraha priyaha bhavanti. And the list goes on. So the sage says that it is not for the sake of wealth. Wealth is not desired for the sake of wealth, but for one's own happiness through the wealth, atmartham. It is not for the sake of children that we desire them, but through the children, we are deriving happiness. It is not for the sake of husband that the husband is dear to the wife, or not for the sake of wife that the wife is dear to the husband, but anyone and anything is dear to us because we are getting our happiness. Atmartham. Atmartham. So that is the story in brief of this Brihadaranyaka Upanishad section. Now, with a little amount of analysis, we'll be able to see that it is really true. Now, even when we donate something in society, we're a great contributor, no? Then also, there is a visible benefit. Drishtaphalam will be there. There's a psychological state of satisfaction. And there is a adrishtaphalam. Punyam will accrue to us. So, whatever we pursue, a passion in life, anything we do because it gives me happiness. And the moment that stops giving me happiness, because, I'm different now, different stage of life, then I will stop doing that. Now, you take these extreme examples like terrorists. Even they are doing atmartham. Terrorists are convinced, religious people who are convinced that they will get a wonderful spot in heaven by their God. And they are creating a new world, a transformed world. Or those people who commit suicide, that is also for atmartham, because they want to end the present miserable state of life, which is because life has become so complicated for them. They cannot figure it out. And this is a shortcut they are taking. But it is also atmartham. So, like that, this shloka says, in the second line, Swataha eva hi sarvesham atma priyatamaha yataha. So, atma is the dearest. And for that atma sukham, one is pursuing various goals in life, and the goals are not pursued for the goals themselves, but because they bring me the happiness. Now, the third line, Tata Atma Sadanandaha. And hence, therefore, what? Atma is Sadanandaha. Na asya dukham kaschana. So, there is no dukham in the Atma. And we know this very well because of the Sushupti Avastha. In the Sushupti Avastha, where there are no objects, there is no subject-object divide, and yet one is in Paramananda, Nityananda. I'm enjoying that deep happiness without being related to anyone, without chasing any object, without enjoying it actively. Yeah, that is the teaching of the Sushupti Avastha there. So the subtle point here is that ultimately, everyone wants to be and abide in Atma. Now, we should not think and go on a guilt trip and say, oh, I'm so selfish. I'm not a good mother or a good wife or a good husband. No. Do I really love only Atma? And do I not love my family members? No, that is not the point here. The point here is to understand this fact this fact of life that whatever we do, a relationship is for one's own sake. So this may come as a bitter truth, but it is a fact of life. And we do that because in the process, what happens? There is emotional growth. Emotional growth, emotional maturity. So ultimately, I will come to the point of understanding that Atma is really the source of Paramananda. And whatever else I enjoy, that is only not only temporary, but it is a lesha, it is a fraction, minimal happiness of that limitless Anandam, that is Swarupananda. That is the point here. Now, even here, if you see, I am sharing the knowledge of Viveka Chudamani, Atmartham. Yeah, because I am, fulfilling joyfully the Agnya of my Guru. My Guru said, go and share the knowledge. So this is Atmartham. And hopefully all of you are also listening Atmartham because you want the joy of clear knowledge, the joy of the Shankaracharya's unfoldment of the Viveka Chudamani. So whatever we do, we have to do it consciously for that Atmartham. Now, what about the Jnanis? For the Jnanis, what is the Atma there? Atma is limitless. So they have arrived at the discovery that they are not this limited, confined ahankara, which is demanding a gratification, give me this, give me that, and I will be, sukhi for some minutes. No, they are enjoying the fathomless, limitless anandam. So the jnanis are always abiding in the happiness. So they are not deriving happiness from anything, nor will the happiness diminish by anything. So for them, it is of course atmartham they will do, but they genuinely will help even a stranger. Yeah, not for the ego gratification, but because they have understood ahameva idam sarvam. All that is here is me. So I am really helping myself. So such is the vast, expanded state of understanding for a jnani. But generally in the world, we'll find this truth of Atma that whatever we do, we want to be happy and peaceful and with pleasure ultimately. That is the idea. And that happiness can be again sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic. And that is this karta bhokta ahankaraha, who becomes the sukhi dukhi jivaha. Let us chant the shloka again, the 3-line shloka 106. आत्मा तत्त्वेन हि प्रेयान् विषयो न स्वतः प्रियः स्वत एव हि सर्वेषाम् आत्मा प्रियतमो यतः तत आत्मा सदानन्दः नास्य दुःखं कदाचन. So Atma is the Priyatamaha and there is no dukkham in the Atma as revealed by the Sushupti Avastha. Now let's go to 107. 107 is about the Sushupti Avastha. Yat sushuptau nirvishayah atmanandonubhuyate. Yat sushuptau nirvishayah atmanandonubhuyate. Shruti pratyakshamaityam. Shruti pratyakshamaityam. Anumanancha jagriti. Anumanancha jagriti. Okay. So, यत्सु शुप्तौ निर्विषयः आत्मानन्दोऽनुभूयते श्रुति प्रत्यक्षमैतिह्यम् अनुमानं च जागृति. यत् because सुषुप्तौ निर्विषयः आत्मानन्दः अनुभूयते. Now, yat means because of this fact, because of which fact of the just concluded verse. Yeah. The concluded verse, we just saw, the 106th verse talked about how Atma is Priyatamaha, dearest for everyone. Because of this fact, Atmanandaha Anubhuyate. Anubhuyate is experienced. So Karmani Prayoga here. So the joy of Atma, that pure joy of Atma is anubhuyate, experienced. What kind of joy is it? Nirvishayaha. And without any sense contact. And when does that happen? Sushuptau. Very simple verse. Sushuptau Saptami. In the deep sleep state. You all know the deep sleep state by now. When body is inactive, mind is switched off. There is no time, no space, no world, no I, me, mine, he, she, it. Yeah, so, but what is there? Atma, original consciousness. But there is no mind which can capture the abhasa as in the other two states. So, here, what kind of ananda do we experience in deep sleep? Nirvishayaha anandaha. That is the ananda that is not centered on any object, any person, any event, any situation. Whereas that ananda we saw, coffee ananda, cereal ananda, yeah, all those anandas are what? Experiential ananda. So they have degrees, Priyam Moda, Pramoda, and they are Agama Painaha. They have a point of origin and point of departure. But here we have this indivisible whole Ananda that is not dependent on anything. So Nirvishayaha Anandaha Anubhuyate Sushuptau in the deep sleep state. Whether the Jiva is a king or a beggar, a thief, or a sannyasi, all enjoy the same Ananda in Sushupti Avastha. Because there is no mind. So we can clearly understand it is the mind that is dividing and fragmenting in the other two states. There's a subject-object divide. So yat sushuptau nirvishaya anandaha atma anandaha anubhuyate. Now, second line says Shrutihi. What is the proof of this anandaha? So here a list of words are explained. Shrutihi is one proof, Pratyaksham second proof, Aitihyam third, Anumanam fourth. 4 ways we can prove this, that this is indeed so. Atmanandaha is nirvishayaha in Sushupti Avastha. But when can we prove this? Not while we are sleeping. Jagrati. So when we wake up the next day, then while I'm in deep sleep, do I know I'm deeply sleeping? No, because there's no mind, right? So, if you try to wake up a person who is deeply sleeping in your home, will that person say, don't disturb me, I'm sleeping? No, right? If the person is asleep, the person cannot respond. So, Jagrati. But the next day when we wake up, then what do I say? Aham sukhena asvapsam nakinchit avedisham. This means, Tattvabodha, this means I did not know anything, but I slept well. I feel recharged, rejuvenated after a good night's sleep, which most people do not get this punyam. No, they are dreaming and they're tossing and turning, but that few hours of deep sleep, recharging sleep is not there. But here, the shloka says, Jagrati, in the waking state alone, we understand that there was Anandam in deep sleep the previous night. I do not know where I was, or what I did. There was no experience, but Anandam was there. Now for that, here these 4 words are Shrutihi. No? So Shrutihi is the Shabda Pramana. There are so many texts, Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, which talk about this avastha. The avastha traya sakshi, how it is there, and in the deep sleep, why and how all this happens. So everything is withdrawn into the causal karana shariram, and there is no activity except for minimum pranic activity. Then pratyaksham. Pratyaksham means direct. So don't we all intimately know that yes, I did experience Anandam in the last night's deep sleep. Pratyaksham. There is a direct understanding. Then there's a word Aitihyam. Aitihyam is connected to the word itihasa. Itihasa we know is history or tradition. So Aitihya means the wise people, like our acharyas and the gurus. So acharyas and gurus have also talked about this topic in various Upanishads or Prakarana Granthas and what happens in the deep sleep. Then finally, the word Anumanam. Now, Anumana means inference. Yeah. So we infer, like how in the waking state, the three bodies are active. Then the dream state, one body is cancelled. Sthula Shariram, Sukshma continues. Then in the deep sleep, the Sukshma Shariram is again out. Yeah, then only Karana Shariram is there. So this is the kind of logic that, that we see and we study, and which proves what? That Atmanandaha Nirvishayaha Sushuptau Anubhuyate. That is why it is said ignorance is bliss. Yeah, in the deep sleep state, we are all blissfully, ignorantly happy. So it is a very passive experience. Yeah, whereas the jnanis enjoy the same Atmananda in the waking state. Atmanieva Atmana Tushtaha, because they have gained the knowledge. And having gained the knowledge, and there is no this karta, bhokta, sukhi, dukhi, pendulum kind of roller coaster, emotional life. So they enjoy that deep sleep ananda even in the waking state. But generally, this anandam for most people is enjoyed only in deep sleep because the mind is switched off. So all this shows us that what we love the most is Atma. Yeah, Atma is the dearest. Priyatamaha, Parama Prema Aspadaha. Because otherwise we would not love to sleep. After a whole day of activity, everybody loves to sleep. Yeah, and switch off the lights, and then for a few hours, nobody disturbs me, and I want to be in that Anandam. That is the proof. Yeah, Pratyaksham proof. And such an Ananda is Nirvishayaha Ananda. Does not depend on our bank balance, does not depend upon the family members, whether they're present or absent, or on my role. What kind of role am I playing in the waking state? Nothing. So whether I'm fair or dark or fat or thin, no. All the attachments are dropped in the deep sleep, and there is only the I, Atmanandaha, which is Sadanandaha. Yat sushuptau nirvishayah atmanandonubhuyate shruti pratyakshamaityam anumanam cha jagrati. See, anumanam is inference. No? We know the pancha pramanas. No? Pratyaksha pramana are the sensory perception by the Jnanendriyani. Anumanam is inference. Arthapati, multi-step inference. Then upamanam is to compare, to know by comparison. Like that, a few pramanas are mentioned. Now, these pramanas fail if you have to prove Atma exists. Atma Tattvam can only be had through Shabda Pramana, the sixth one. But here we're talking about the Ananda. The state of Anandam, that is known by Anumanam. We infer it. Yeah. So that is why those Shrutihi, Pratyaksham, Aitihyam, Anumanam are the ways to understand this phenomenon that I am, in that absolute state. Okay. The next shloka, 108. Now we have seen, we are studying all the three bodies very, very systematically. So, Sthula Shariram is the gross body, Sukshma is the subtle body. But what is the cause of both these? Hardware and software. The cause is Karana Shariram. That is why it is called Karana Shariram. But what is the nature of Karana Shariram? Maya. Avidya Maya, or self-ignorance. Now, because there is ignorance, then there is a need for a subtle body, And the subtle body needs a physical body. And then we are back in the samsara chakram, yeah, and exhausting the karma, and lifetime after lifetime. So now the author, that is Acharya, Adi Shankaracharya, enters in the topic of the Karanam. And by Karanam, we are entering into the topic of Mahamaya. Now, again, Maya is a topic we have heard so many times. In the Gita, also Krishna says, Daivi Hesha Mama Maya Duratyaya Mameva ye prapatyante etam mayam tarantite. Krishna says, everybody is caught and entangled in the Maya net. Look at all the whole world. Idam Triguna Mayihi. By the Triguna Maya Shakti, this world is fascinated. But those who Mam Prapatyante, who gain the knowledge of Ishvara, who is the Maya we, who wields the Maya, Te eva Mama Mayam Taranti. They will cross over Maya. So we all know, Adi Shankaracharya is called a Mayavadi. Mayavadi means Adi Shankaracharya only has given this link. This is called the missing link. How did that one non-dual Atma Brahma become many? This question is often raised. Do we not see the multiplicity, the plurality in the world? So many namas, rupas, kriyas, functions are there. How did this transformation happen? And Shankaracharya has explained it by the power of the Maya, the creative power of Maya. But to get a comprehensive understanding of Maya is impossible. Yeah. In one satsanga, when a devotee asked a Swamiji, can you explain Maya? Swamiji said, you asked me another question. This question cannot be answered. Yeah. So Maya is that which is there, which appears, but it is not really there. When we investigate, then it disappears. Why did the rope appear as a snake? Maya. So until we get the knowledge of the rope, then that Maya Kalpita snake will not go. So that is why Yama Sa Maya, that which is not really there, but which appears, that which veils the mind and which projects. All these definitions we have seen. Sat Asadbhyam Anirvachaniya. That which is Sat appears, but it is Asat, Mithya. That is Maya. So the next few verses are all about the glory and the power and wonder that is Maya. So let us see the next shloka. Number 108. That's a good number, 108. अव्यक्तनाम्नि परमेश शक्तिः अव्यक्तनाम्नि परमेश शक्तिः अनाद्य विद्या त्रिगुणात्मिका परा अनाद्य विद्या त्रिगुणात्मिका परा कार्यानुमेया सुधियैव माया कार्यानुमेया सुधियैव माया यया जगत् सर्वमिदं प्रसूयते यया जगत् सर्वमिदं प्रसूयते. Trishtuk meter looks like. So now, how is the Jagat accounted for? And the answer is simply Maya. One word answer. But what is the nature of Maya is explained here. Avyakta namni paramesha shaktihi anadi avidya trigunatmika para. कार्य अनुमेया सुधिया एव माया यया जगत् सर्वमिदं प्रसूयते. Quite a simple shloka here. So the shloka is describing the Parama Shaktihi, the power of Brahma, which is called what? Namni means which is called. So that Paramesha Shaktihi. Paramesha Shakti is the Shakti of Shiva. The power of Brahma. The power of Brahma. Namni is called what? Avyaktam. Avyaktam means unmanifest. So the Maya is called Avyaktam because It is not known. It is the power by which the seed brings a sprout and a sapling and becomes a huge tree. Then the tree goes back to Avyaktam by the same power of Maya. So, this Paramesha Shakti, the power of Brahma, Ishvara Shakti, is called Namni Avyaktam because it is not known. Then what else is Maya? Anadi Avidya. Anadi means beginningless. Yeah. When the question is asked, when did the Kali Yuga begin? When did the whole Srishti begin? When was the Jiva first born? When did Atma originate? There is no answer for all this. When was the first birth? No answer. Anadi, Anadi, Anadi. So here, Maya is Anadi, Srishti is Anadi, Jiva is Anadi, Atma is Anadi. Atma is Anadi because Ajo Nitya Shashvatoyam Puranaha. There is no birth for Atma. Atma simply is, was, is, and will be. But Maya has these different states. Avyaktam, Vyaktam, Avyaktam, Vyaktam. So Maya too has no point of origin. We have to see the logic here. If Maya had originated, that would mean there was knowledge before that. If there was knowledge, how can there be ignorance? So Maya is beginningless. Beginningless. Like we do not know when we stopped dreaming and fell off to sleep. We do not know who our first parents were. Yeah? So it is a cycle. That is why Sanatana, Sadatana, cyclic. Yeah, round and round and round. But fortunately, what? This Maya is not Ananta. It is not endless. Yeah, it has an end. And how? By gaining knowledge. Whereas Atma Brahma is Ananta also. Atma Brahma is Anadi and Ananta, but Maya is Anadi but not Ananta. Otherwise, there is no purpose in studying, doing Shravanam. So, this Anadi Avidya Maya is beginningless. And what kind it is? Trigunatmika Para. We know all these words already. Trigunatmika means it has the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. So, the Maya net, which covers the whole Jagat, whether it is unmanifest or manifest, there is the net of the gunas. Whole chapter 14 of the Bhagavad Gita explains us beautifully how, all the jivas are caught in the net of Maya, and that is this Jagat Maya. And so, Krishna advises Arjuna, Arjuna, Nistregunyaha Bhava. You now upgrade from tamas to rajas, rajas to sattva, and then become nitya sattvastaha. Be stabilized and rooted in sattva, and that will take you beyond and you'll become a gunatita. But here we are discussing the power of Maya. Then Maya is defined as para. Now, para means that is the cause of the firstborn. Now, who is the Pratamajaha, the firstborn? Hiranyagarbha. Now, we all know Hiranyagarbha is often portrayed as the Chaturmukha Brahmaji in the Puranas. Because Brahmadev is a creator, has to create all the subtle setup first, the lokas, the functions, the laws, and then the gross, lokas. But who created Hiranyagarbha? That is Maya, and that is Para. So Para Maya brings forth the cosmic mind. That is really who Hiranyagarbha is. The cosmic mind, the Samashti intelligence. That is Para. Then what? Karya Anumeya. Anumeya means is an adjective to Maya. Maya is Anumeya, is measured or it is assessed. How? By Karyam. Karya means an effect. Effect is a product that has come into origin. Now, don't we see children in life, then we compare their features to their parents and they say, oh, those must be the parents of these children. Because the karyam is of a certain kind, so there is an anumanam that this must be the parent. So because we see the effects of rajas, sattva and tamas in the world, in our own body, how the physical body is tamasic, mind is sattvic, prana is rajasic. So there must be a cause for this. And what is that? Trigunatmika Maya. So that Trigunatmika Maya is Anumeya, is measured by the Karyam. What is the Karyam? The whole Jagat. So the whole Jagat is called Jagat Karyam. It's an effect. It is a product. So just by seeing the Jagat, we know that there must be a Upadana Karanam for this. What is Upadana Karanam? Trigunatmika Maya. Material cause for the entire Jagat. Now, again, I don't want to go into Panchatanmatras and all that. So we all know that very well, Tattva Bodha, how the Maya, there is permutation and combination and Panchikaranam, and the whole setup is caused. So we are talking about that Maya Shakti. Then what? Second line, Sudhiya. Now, who's a Sudhi? Sudhi is a wise person whose Dhi, intellect is, is Sushtu, is wise. So, by the wise people, such a Maya can be understood. Sudhiya. It can be measured by the wise people. Then last line is Yaya Mayaya. By this Maya, what has happened? Idam sarvam jagat prasuyate. Prasavaha has happened. Remember, Krishna in chapter 7 says that this Maya, Maya or Prakriti Mataji is my Mama Mahat Yonihi, is the womb. And in the womb, I place the seed, the Sankalpa. So Krishna says, Aham Bija Pradaha. I place the seed. And this womb of nature or Prakriti is first Avyaktam. And from that, what? Idam Sarvam Jagat Prasuyate is born. So born means the Srishti cycle manifests. Yeah. So this Maya is often compared to as a grand womb of nature and from which the Jagat is born. So all about Maya only we are seeing now. Avyaktanamni Paramesha Shaktihi Anadya Vidya Trigunatmika Para Karyanumeya Sudhiyaiva Maya Yaya Jagat Sarvamidam Prasuyate. So why is Acharya talking about Maya? Because that is the nature of Karana Shariram. We have entered the topic of the third body, Karana Shariram, which will continue for another 15 or so verses. Karanam is self-ignorance. Because what is the cause of birth? Avidya. And avidya is avidya Maya, is the lower manifestation of Maya. And that nature we have just studied with all these terms. No? And that avidya Maya can be removed only by Vidya Maya. And Vidya Maya is self-knowledge gained by Shravana, Manana, Nidhi, Dhyasanam. So a few more shlokas on Maya we will see in the next session. But I will conclude with a story which is more of a puzzle. And Puja Swamiji would narrate this to show us the nature of Maya. So there was once a rich and wealthy person, a father of 3 sons. And the sons are grown up, and the father also becomes older, and then he decides to make a will and to divide the property amongst the 3 sons. And says in the will that the eldest can take half of the property, and the middle can take 1/3 of my property. And the youngest gets only 1/9 of the property. For some reason, this is the arrangement made by the father. So then it's time, the prarabdha ends and the jiva departs. Now the 3 sons decide to live separately and take their share. So then they divide all the property accordingly as per the instructions. But then they found that part of the property were the 17 elephants. Yeah, the father had 17 elephants. Now, how to divide 17 elephants by 3 people? 17 is an odd number. You're not allowed to cut an elephant, of course. Yeah. So how to do that? And they puzzled and puzzled over it. They cannot figure out a solution. So then the elders came and said, you do one thing, there is a wise person in the hills there. You go and consult that person. So they all go. The wise person says, oh, I knew your father very well. I'll happily help you all out. Here, take this. And he offers one more elephant. Now, how many elephants we have? 17 plus 1. Most of you know this. Yeah. 18 elephants. Yeah. And now easily they're able to figure out the logistics. The eldest gets the half, 9 elephants. And the middle gets 1/3, 6. And the youngest gets 1/9, 2. And there is still remainder elephant. And the remainder elephant goes back to the wise person. Yeah. So Swamiji will say, is it not a wonder that how life is really simple, but we insist on making it complicated? One wise poet has said. So the truth of life, can be easily solved if there's a prayerful living, if there's a Sharanagati, if there is some Viveka. Viveka, we can easily solve the so-called complex situations of life. So that is the teaching about how that 18th elephant stands for Maya. So Maya will put many challenges in life, but Maya can also effortlessly, solve those challenges and guide us if we hold on to Vidya Maya. But if we are, insist on being stubborn and resistant and cling to Raga Dveshas, then we make it more and more difficult for ourselves. Okay. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. There are a few announcements. I will, so